What's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist and I'm going to be doing an Nemleria deck profile. So I'm really excited to do this for you guys because this deck is an extremely fun deck to play to OTK your opponent with all the massive boss monsters we're going to be summoning using this build. So without further ado, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell in there so you can become part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards. Like getting your name screwed for every single video, getting assigned cards in the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month you're a patron. So without further ado, let's get straight on into this. So first off, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Dreaming Nemleria. This card is the most important card in the deck because it helps you get your copy of Dreaming Tower of Nemleria. Plus, you want this card face up in the extra deck so you can actually use your Nemleria card effects. But this card has a really cool ability that its pendulum effect is that once returned during your main phase, you can place one Nemleria continuous spell from your deck or graveyard face up on the field. And if you do, add this card to your extra deck face up. But you cannot special summon this card the turn you activate this effect, which is not that big of a deal because you want this card face up on the extra deck. And the really cool thing about this deck that's hilarious is your extra deck is basically the mattress that she's sleeping on while you're going through your duel, which is just really funny. We then play 3 copies of Nemleria Dream Devourer. This card is one of the most powerful cards in the deck, so we keep getting amazing trap cards for this build. This card is really good in the deck because if this card's in your hand or graveyard, you can banish 3 cards from your extra deck face down, except a copy of Dreaming Nemleria to special summon this card, but you cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck the turn you activate this effect, except pendulum monsters, which is not that big of a deal because we're pretty much only summoning out our big boss monsters to OTK our opponent. It also has a great ability that lets you send one other level 10 beast monster from your hand or face it from field to grave to set an Nemleria trap directly from your deck, which is an insane ability because we have 2 really powerful trap cards to use with this card's effect. We then play 2 copies of Nemleria Dream Defender Chocolate. This card is amazing in the deck because it has the ability, if you have a face-up pendulum monster in your extra deck, you can special summon this card from your hand, and it gets absolutely massive to OTK your opponent. We then play 2 copies of Nemleria Dream Defender Vanilla. This card is also summoned out the same way your copy of Chocolate does, but this card is actually targeting protection, which is just really, really cool. We then play a single copy of Dreaming Reality of Nemleria Realized. This card is amazing as a 1-up in the build because this card actually helps you get your copy of Dream Nemleria face up in your extra deck, which is just super helpful, but you really only need a single copy of this card. We then play 3 copies of Eater of Millions. Eater of Millions is a definite 3-up in the build because it's so easy to summon to your side of the field by just banishing 5 cards from your hand, field, and or extra deck face down. You can special summon this card out to your side of the field, and also once per turn at the start of the damage step, if this card battles an opponent's monster, you can banish that opponent's monster face down, which is an insane effect. We then play 2 copies of Grand Manju Daiza. This card is the secret boss monster of the deck, because with this deck you're going to be banishing a lot of cards from your deck, a lot of cards from your extra deck, and basically just making this card absolutely massive because this card's attack and defense points become 400 times the number of your banished cards, meaning if you resolve something like a Pot of Desires, this card comes out at 4,000 as a normal summon, which is just absolutely crazy. This card is a definite 2-up in the build. I did consider running 3, but I feel like 2 is really all you need, but it's really good in this deck. We then play 3 copies of Kashtira Fenrir. Fenrir is amazing in this build because you just special summon this card out to your side of the field if you don't control a monster. You can add another copy of it from your deck to your hand every single turn, which is just super cool, and also it's a great spot removing card. We then play 3 copies of Ash Blossom. Ash Blossom's amazing as a 3-up in the build just to basically stop your opponent from touching the deck. We then play 3 copies of Dimension Shifter. This deck doesn't really care about what gets banished, which is really amazing because Shifter can basically just end games by activating this card depending on what you're going up against, especially with decks like this that are OTK decks. This card is super easy to just drop against the opponent and win games. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we're going to start off with a single copy of Called by the Grave. Called by the Grave is very important in this deck as one of basically just to stop your opponent from hand trapping you while you're going in for all of your plays. We then play 2 copies of Dreaming Tower of Princess Nemleria. This card is super important to be able to get to with your copy of Dreaming Nemleria, but you really only need 2 copies of it because you can get to it with your copy of Dreaming Nemleria, making it an amazing 2-of in the deck. It has the ability to banish 2 face down cards from your X deck face down to add 2 level 10 beast monsters with different names from your deck to your hand. And you cannot special monsters from the X deck the turn you activate this effect, except Pendulum monsters, and you can only use the effects of this card once per turn. And if a Nemleria monster you control would be destroyed by battle or by opponent's card effect, while you have Dreaming Nemleria face up in your X deck, you can banish 1 face down card from your X deck face down instead, which is such a cool ability about this card that you're basically using your extract boss monsters as resources for this deck. I really like that, and it makes the deck really interesting. We then play 2 copies of Triple Tactics Talents. This card is great as a 2-of in the build because this card either lets you draw 2, take control of an opponent's monster, or look at your opponent's hand and choose 1 card from it and shuffle it back in the deck, which is just really good to be able to do in this build. And this card is super helpful in the deck, especially if your opponent hand traps you. We then play 2 copies of Pot of Desires. Pot of Desires is really good because we basically play everything we need at multiples, and this card can actually be the last card you activate out of your hand after you've gone through all of your combos to basically make your copy of Grand Manju Daiza absolutely massive. This card is really helpful in the build as a draw spell, and I really like this card because it doesn't banish cards from our extract face down like Extravagance or Prosperity, which is why I chose to play this card as a 2-of in the build. We then play 3 copies of the level 10 Draw spell. This card is amazing in the deck as a 3-of, as it helps out so much to send monsters from your hand or face it from field to grave, whose total level equal 10 to draw 2 cards, which pretty much all of our Nemleria monsters except Dreaming Nemleria are level 10, so you can use this card just to dig into the deck for more cards. I really like this card as a 3-of, and it helps out a lot in the deck, especially with cards like Devourer being able to special summon back, which is just really, really good. We then play 3 copies of Sweet Dreams Nemleria. This card is really cool as a 3-of in the deck, so let you add a Nemleria monster from your deck to your hand. Then, if you have Dreaming Nemleria face up in your X deck, your opponent cannot activate cards or effects a turn when a Nemleria monster is normal or special summon, which is a great ability to be able to use with this card to get to your copy of Dreaming Nemleria. It also has a really cool ability that you can place this card from the graveyard on the bottom of the deck, and then target 1 Dreaming Nemleria you control and add it to your X deck face up, which is a really cool effect. So that's it for the spells, guys. Let's get into the traps. So for the traps, we're just going to be playing 1 each of the Nemleria traps. These cards are amazing in the deck. Repeater is just absolutely crazy, that if you control another Nemleria card, you can banish the following number of cards from your X deck face down, except Dreaming Nemleria, then activate the appropriate effect depending on the amount that you banish. If you banish 1, you get to add a Nemleria card from your graveyard to your hand. If you banish 2, any damage you take this turn is halved, and you banish 3, send 1 level 10 beast monster you control to the grave, and if you do, negate the effects of all face-up monsters your opponent currently controls until the end of the turn, which is just absolutely insane. And Louvre is amazing in the deck as a 1-of because it has the ability to special summon 1 Nemleria monster or a level 10 beast monster from your hand or deck in defense position, but return it back to the hand during the end phase, which is super easy just to summon it out again on the follow-up turn. It also has the ability you can banish this card from your graveyard and then target 1 face-up monster your opponent controls, and it loses 100 attack and defense for each of your currently face-down banished cards until the end of the turn, which can be quite a lot in this deck. So these cards are great at 1 each because they're searchable off Devourer. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, guys, we're going to start off with a single copy of Juggernaut Leave. This card is really good, and it's a 1-of in the build because you make this on top of your copy of Gustav Max or your copy of Super Dora to OTK your opponent. We then play 2 copies of Gustav Max. Gustav Max is great as a 2-of in the build just to basically use any of your 2 Nemleria monsters that are level 10s to be able to make this card and do 2,000 points of burn damage to your opponent. We then play a single copy of number 81. Number 81 is is really good because you can make this card basically invincible, which is insane. I love that about this card, and it's just a super helpful one-of that you can basically use to make Zeus or go in for a copy of Juggernaut Leap. Speaking of Zeus, we do play a single copy of Zeus, basically just to board wipe the field. We then play a single copy of Typhon. Typhon is actually a card that I summon out all the time in this deck, which is super helpful, and it's a really good card to be able to use in this build because you can basically just make it on the monster you have with the highest attack points. I usually make it using Chocolate, which is really cool, but it's a great card to be able to use in this build just to be able to bounce a card off the field. We then play a single copy of Access Code Talker. Access Code's really good as a one-of in the build just to be able to pop cards on the field. You don't summon it all the time, but it's a great option. Then play a single copy of Blackluster Soldier, Soldier of Chaos. We do play a lot of level 7 or higher monsters in this build, so this card is very easy to put on your side of the field, and it does banish a card off the field if it does destroy a monster by battle, which is the main effect we actually use on this card. We then play a single copy of Nightmare Unicorn to spin stuff, one copy of Nightmare Phoenix to pop spells and traps. We then play a single copy of the Dark Charmer and a single copy of the Light Charmer, because we do play lights and darks in this deck, so these cards work really well in the deck. We then play a single copy of SP Little Knight. SP Little Knight is amazing in the build, but if you want a more budget option in this card, you can play Nightmare Cerberus instead. But this card is really good in the deck as a one-up because it's a double interruption for your opponent. We then play a single copy of Blockade Borg Blocker. This card is really good as a one-of in the deck because it does help you grab back your continuous spells from your graveyard, which is a great ability. We then play a single copy of IP Masquerena. IP is really good as a one-of to help you go in for cards like Nightmare Unicorn or even your copy of SP Little Knight during the opponent's turn. So that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you enjoyed. This deck is super fun to be able to play. I absolutely love Nemleria because of how powerful it is, and it just keeps getting amazing support and getting better and better. This deck is super fun to be able to play, and it's a really fun deck to be able to OTK your opponent with. So that's going to do it for this one, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can become part of the notification squad. We'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.